Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And man, I've been waiting to have this conversation for a long time. Very grateful to my friend Don Foose for helping connect us so we can have this talk, man. I'm talking with John Joseph. What's going on, man?
What's happening, Bill? How you doing, brother? Glad to be here. You know, sorry for the delay today.
All good, man. I get it, man. I get it. Usually when I have people on for the first time, though, I like to go like way back. So do you remember when you were a kid, what you originally wanted to be when you grew up?
Believe it or not, I just, I don't know if you know my background. I was in really bad foster homes with my two brothers, and I just basically dreamt about being a musician, man. And, like, I didn't even know what touring was, but I was like, we're going to get a van and travel around and like all, I mean, I'm 64. So this was in the early 70s. I was like 10 years old. I want to say 72, 73.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I never really was like, I just kind of loved music, and that's what got me through a lot of the trials and tribulations growing up. So that was kind of my thing,
Yeah. Who were some of the earliest musical influences you heard?
Oh man, Sly and the Family Stone. I remember when he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and like just a lot of the old school soul, and even like the rock and roll stuff. I mean, I got to see a lot of those concerts in the 70s at the Garden, Led Zeppelin, Sabbath, just what's the deal with cursing on here? Is it right?
It's a adult program, so feel free.
Yes. So yeah, but I grew up on soul music, man. Really, like I wrote about it in my memoir, The Evolution of a Cro-Magnon, that it was like I could identify with the struggle of like we were being starved and beaten and all kinds of stuff in this foster home. So like the only outlet we had was like watching, like we found this little round TV that they had in the 70s. It was in the garbage, and we put a metal hanger for an antenna, and we used to just watch like Soul Train in the garage and like imitate the dancers. And I just thought everybody was so fucking cool, man. So I grew up on like all that old school Stevie Wonder and, just like all, I guess, I grew up on soul music, and that's what kind of connected with me a lot. And
Nice.
And then you had like, the rock stuff too back then, so I liked all kinds of music, really.
Yeah. Anything to kind of escape your situation, even if it was mentally, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it was,
And when I know we discussed this a little bit beforehand. I don't know how much you've talked about it in previous interviews, but me being retired Navy, I read that you did some time in the Navy as well. You want to share about like what kind of encouraged that to join the Navy?
I'm going to tell you, man, because like, a lot of people could sit there and judge whatever happened because they weren't in my shoes, but I shot heroin the first time at 13 years old when I was on the streets, and that was in 1976. I came out of one abusive foster home after another, ended up in St. John's Home for Boys, went onto the streets in 76, and started catching cases for drugs, you know, like selling drugs, and I ended up racking up 3 cases. The final case was for angel dust, some really bad stuff around that, and they gave me they locked me up, and I had, you know, bench warrants and stuff. So I did 3 months in Spofford in the South Bronx, which, if anybody, that's where Mike Tyson was. If anybody knows about the New York City and New York State correctional stuff for minors, that's one of the worst places you could possibly go. And I was the only white dude in there. The 2 Irish cops that took me there from Kew Gardens, Central Booking in Queens, I got popped in Forest Park, said that the first people that mess with you in there, you better fucking take them out, because they said the last white boy they brought to Spofford got stabbed to death and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, so I got through that. I had to fight the first night up on the unit, put a chair over some dude's head, knocked out his boy. And before I got out of Spofford and went upstate, there was a riot in the Chow Hall, because that's where everything happened, was in, you know, and the same dude came, stabbed me in the arm, you know, and from there I went upstate. I did 18 months upstate, and the place where I was, Lincolndale, was everything from attempted murder on down. So I was trying to improve my life, but they had me seeing a psychiatrist. They fucking tried to give me, you know, because of all the stuff I went through as a kid, you know, it was a lot of internal stuff going on that I didn't tell anybody about, you know, sexual abuse and stuff like that, because I was embarrassed. And that's not something like now people put that shit on social media. Back then, you didn't talk about what happened to you. You just let that shit stay bottled up inside. So the whole time I was locked up, I was doing drugs. You could get any drugs into the facilities, you know that. And so I got out, and I had not really grown up with my mother, but she had. So the last like few months there, we started getting visits with her, because they try to like get you back in with, you know, your family situation, and she wanted to give it a go. We never grew up with her. My father tried to murder her, but, you know, it was just bad stuff. You know, beat her constantly. And she you know, was depressed and everything else, and taking medications. And so, but the whole time I went home, I didn't give a shit about trying to repair anything with her, because there was nothing to repair. So it was just like, she was there as much as she could be for us. I will say that. When we was in the foster homes, she would take us on visits, but the one time we said anything, she had a nervous breakdown, and then they wasn't going to let us have any more visits. So we never said anything anymore about what they were doing to us. So when I ended up getting out of Lincolndale, I went right back out onto the streets. And so the junkies in Rockaway that I worked for before, I worked for them again, and they had me holding their bundles of heroin. And it was on 116 in Rockaway. I mean, I grew up seeing the Ramones and all that in the 70s, hanging out there and fucking going to punk clubs. So I was into punk rock, you know, and just rock too. Like, you know, like I was going to see, you know, to the concerts at the Garden, my father's place, the Bottom Line, all that stuff. And I caught a case. They caught me with a bundle of heroin, and they were like, okay, that's 10 bags of dope. You're looking at least 5 years upstate again. This time not as a juvenile, because I was 16. So they said, you know, my mother was dating a Navy recruiter at the time, Senior Chief Ed McNulty. And basically he struck a deal with the DA or whatever, the prosecutor. Like, they said, all right, you're either going to do, you know, time. You're either going to go in the Navy or you're going to do time. So I said, hey, the state didn't raise no fool. Give me the Navy. And I was a mess. I was a drug addict. But I signed up. I passed the physical. I did okay on the ASVABs. So I joined the Navy with my brother, my older brother. We went in on the buddy program in 1980. And so in New York, they ship you out of Fort Hamilton. You leave from there to like LaGuardia, and you catch like a flight up to Chicago, and then you go to Great Lakes. But so we're in Fort Hamilton. I was still fucked up on drugs. Like this dude goes, yo, right in this neighborhood, they sell angel dust. So we went and bought 5 bags of angel dust, me, my brother, and this other kid, and we smoked it all. I'd never been on an airplane in my life. I'm on a fucking airplane high on angel dust heading to like boot camp. And then, you know, that all that shit you see about when they try to disorient you and bring you in at night so you don't know where you are, and then they're screaming at you when you get off the bus. And I'm high on fucking dust. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and then, you know, we did the boot camp. I was in great shape because even though when I was locked up, I was boxing, I was fucking doing, they had a cross country thing inside the facility. So you could run, you could play sports. And I've always been athletic. So they made me the athletic training petty officer for our company 003. And, you know, I just tried to do the right thing, you know, when I first got in there, and, you know, but when I got shipped to Norfolk, I started going to the punk rock clubs down there, hanging out with Henry Rollins, Ian Mackay, all the fucking, like there was a club called the Taj Mahal there in Norfolk. And all the punk bands on their way south would go stop at Norfolk because it was another gig. So I was into punk rock, but the first like hardcore show I saw was the Teen Idols and the Untouchables. All those dudes came down, Ian Mackay, the whole crew. And then obviously I saw the Bad Brains, but I started spending less time with the military dudes. So when I went to boot camp, they showed me to be someone special video, you know, like, and they were like, oh yeah, you know, my company commander was a chief. He was a CB, and he worked in Vietnam with the SEAL teams. So, you know, he gassed me up. I passed the initial qualification test. You have to swim a certain amount. Then he sent me to pre-commission. Not pre-commission. It was like they get you in shape to ship out to a buds class, whatever. And I got injured, preconditioning, like they put you in this other unit, and then got hurt there. So when they sent me to Norfolk, my knee was messed up, and they were like, you know, you're gonna go over with these guys over here in Little Creek. Like I went to this expo, and it was like SEAL Team 2 down there, and they were all like these fucking, like, you know, they had the camo paint on, and I'm like a fucking drug addict. I'm like, yeah. And I started doing some PT with them and stuff. And then I just started with the drugs, man. I never kicked the drugs. I still had all those emotional problems. They wanted to send me to a buds class, and I just lost interest in the whole thing, and started actually selling drugs because my lifestyle, I didn't hang out at the base. I like went and just hung out in town. I was going to DC. I was going to punk shows in New York. So I just started with the drugs again, and then I started selling drugs, and I got set up. I went to this club called, this other club was called the King's Head Inn in Norfolk, and they had bands there. I saw 999 in 1980, all these other bands. And this dude was like, yo, these guys want to buy, you know, I was selling everything, coke, pills, quaaludes, weed, acid. The first time I met the Bad Brains, I sold their manager LSD. So like, you know, it's just, it is what it is. I'm not proud of it, but that's where I was in my life. You get all these fucking people trying to judge you for whatever, but if you didn't walk in my shoes and go through where I went through, then you can't really say nothing. You know, but basically, he's like, yo, these guys want to buy pills and acid off you and all this shit. So I was like, all right. So he set it up, and I met these dudes in the parking lot of the King's Head Inn. I sold them like a whole bunch of LSD and pills. And I go inside and I'm like having a fuck, you know, I'm at the bar. I thought the deal was over. All of a sudden, everybody turns around and they just came in with the fucking guns. Get on, you know, get on the ground, get on the ground. So it was the local Norfolk police undercovers that the guy set me up. So he got caught with shit, and that's what people do. They rat. So he set me up, you know, and then they try to work up to, oh, where'd you get the shit from? And I obviously wasn't going to tell them nothing. So they were like, you're looking at 10 years in Leavenworth for this. So one thing led to another. They restricted me to the ship. I was originally in a pre-com unit in Norfolk. So I had shore duty that first year. My ship was being built in Newport News.
Yeah.
So when the ship came out, we started doing the shakedown cruises and all that. Going to Cuba, get Mo, whatever. And then right after that is when I caught the case. So they restricted me to the ship, but it was a civilian case. So they docked my pay, restricted me to the ship. I had to muster like 3 times a day in the court with the fucking duty master at arms, the whole shit. And then I'm seeing like all these dudes. That first port of call was like Bermuda, like Puerto Rico, all this shit. And I had gotten jaw surgery before we left. So we were leaving Puerto Rico going down for like shellback to Argentina and all that. And I got deathly sick. Like, and they put me in the infirmary, but the infection wasn't going away. So they medevaced me by helo off. They sent the helo out to sea. I was on a CGN. They had a helo deck. So they fucking heloed me back to Roosevelt Roads.
Yeah, Rosie Roads. Yep.
Not to say that I'm a fucking supposed to be handcuffed to the bed. And, you know, back then it was pre-computers. So it wasn't all this like shit. They didn't even drug test when I was in the Navy. They didn't start drug testing. Like, there was no drug tests back then in 1980. I don't know if people know that, but you could just party and do whatever the fuck you wanted. And that's what I got caught up in. I went back to what I know because I was an addict and dealing with all this shit in my head. Like I said, I didn't tell these shrinks. They had me see a Navy psychiatrist. He said, this guy, I read what he wrote, and it said, this guy is a time bomb waiting to go off. And what led to like some shit on my ship, there was this redneck on my ship, and he kept calling me a faggot and talking shit. Fuck you, you New York faggot. And he thought because he was a big redneck dude that I was intimidated, but he don't know my past, you know, where I came out of. Not just the lockups, but the streets. People trying to murder you. Like, you know, shot, stab, beat with bats, you name it. Pipes to the head. Like, I wasn't scared of anybody, like, at all. And that's not bragging. It's just that's the way it was. If somebody fucked with you, you stood up for your own. So this dude he was in first division with me, boatswain mate, deck ape, and he kept fucking talking shit to me, And we're out at sea, and everybody's going on leave and fucking on liberty and, you know, having a blast. They restricted me to the ship, no pay, and they had me doing, like, the worst shit. Like, they had me with a deck grinder on the helo deck, like, taking up the non-skid, putting down red lead, and my jaw is fucking infected. So the dude walks by me, he goes, "You fucking faggot," and kicks over the red lead can of paint all over me. And I'm on my, I'm like putting the red lead down on. That was the primer they used. And something just snapped. And he went into, and that's that time bomb shit, that they was talking about. So we went into the boatswain locker and I let him go. And I walked in behind him. I dogged down the hatch, 3-4 dogs on it. He's looking at me like he just sort of looked at me and he goes, "Yo, man, yo." And I just picked up a full can of paint and I just started fucking hitting him in the legs and the arms and like didn't try to kill him. Just hurt him so bad that he passed out from the pain. And I left him there. I went to my rack and I just laid in my rack. And I was like just waiting for them to come. And then they did. And they took me handcuffed down to fucking captain's mast, the whole shit. They didn't really have a brig on my ship, but that's when the shit really hit the fan. And then after that was when they were charging me with another crime, assault on top. Now I had a Navy charge. So that's when the shit happened in my jaw. And they fucking medevaced me off the ship back to Roosevelt Roads. I stayed on an IV drip for like 4 days. They gave me an ID. I was going off the base, having fights with the fucking local Puerto Ricans out there in the bars. I was hanging out with these like crazy Marines and these Navy dudes that worked on the patrol boats and shit. And fucking everybody, we were just taking acid. It was just like wild shit. And then they said, "You're going back to Norfolk." And they sent me to Nimitz Hall, TPU, Transit Personnel Unit, or whatever the fuck they call that, Nimitz Hall. Transient Personnel, yeah. And then they like, "Okay, well, your ship didn't send no orders. We can't keep you here. You got to go back to your duty station." Again, they sent me to Norfolk, cutting me checks. And I'm going out partying. I didn't even have any. They didn't even give me like, "Okay, you got to like sweep the barracks every day." Nothing like that. They just fucking gave me free run. They like the chief there was cool. He's like, he was from New York, so he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do they have you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Well, I don't see nothing." And then I was going out one day and he goes, "Hey, McGowan, just got a wire from your ship. They're pulling in this morning." That's all he said. And I was like, they had already pulled in. So I got on the bus. I'm like, grabbed some clothes, got on the bus that went through the main, Norfolk. Were you ever there?
Yeah. I was at Oceana.
Oh yeah.
And then I was at Little Creek with ACU 2, Saltcraft Unit 2.
Yeah, Little Creek is the amphibious base there. Yeah, so the bus went down Hampton Boulevard, and then it would go through the Navy, stop, make 4 or 5 stops on the base, and then go out the front gate. So I got on the bus, and as I'm going out the front gate, Nimitz Hall is here, and then the front gate is there, and then there's a stop sign, and the bus stops, and there's the 2 master at arms fucking waiting at the light to cross. And I just like slid down in my seat, went out the gate, and that was it, man. I was gone for, I was gone for 15 years with the Cro-Mags. Never got in trouble, never, started the band, worked for the Bad Brains, and just changed my life. I became a monk from like 82 to 84 and worked through all that shit that I had gone through, started writing the lyrics for Cro-Mags. Like I said, I got 26 years clean and sober now. I do a lot of charity, not just for, Tunnel to Towers. I try to always help dudes in the military, whatever it is. I fucked up. I accept it. you know, and it is what it is. I was a fucking wild ass kid. Really, the dude hid my whole criminal past from the military. I should have never really been allowed in, but I don't make excuses. I take responsibility for my actions, and it is what it is. And that's the whole story with that. So, you know, and then obviously my bass player and Paris turned me in '95, and that's how you know, that's how they caught up to me. And I was on a job site. I had a job. I had a construction business. I get this text, and a beep rather. We had beepers back then. It was '95. And I had seen my bass player the day before, and he was calling me up because it was a whole bunch of fucked up shit. He robbed a bunch of money from the band. He caught a beating, and it was light. I just smacked him across his fucking face. He robbed the band several times, cleared out the bank account for almost $200,000 on the Century Media deal. He's doing dope. And the band broke up, and then I went to get another record deal from Roadrunner. They're like, "Oh no, this guy signed you as an individual artist. Like, we own anything you do." I said, "Well, how do I get out of this?" So they were like, "Okay, finish up these other tracks that we recorded all at once for Alpha Omega." I don't know if you know our records and all that, CroMags, but yeah. So they said, "Finish up the tracks, give us the other record. You signed for 3 records, give us a second record, tour the United States and tour Europe, and we'll release you." Because I had a deal with Roadrunner. So I said, "Oh, okay." So I'm out, keeping my obligations to the fucking record label to get out of the deal that dude signed me in, and he starts leaving me messages at my house on the Lower East Side. I lived at Stanton Street. John Leguizamo, the actor, was my neighbor, and it's like, "Oh yeah, you keep doing the Cro-Mags, motherfucker. I'm gonna rat you out for everything you ever did and all this shit." And I'm like, he was calling me at like 3:00 in the morning from West Coast, where he's like banging dope, like living in people's garages, blew through all the money. And I picked up one time. I said, "Yo, if you do that, that's the biggest mistake you're ever going to make in your fucking life." And he did. So I never forget it. It was March 18th, 1995 that he fucking turned me in. And the cops came, and I was on a job site. I get this fucking beep. Like, my beeper goes off, and I call the number, and he goes, "Detective Negron, 9th Precinct. Is this John J. McGowan?" Nobody knows my last name. So I was like, that motherfucker, so he goes, "Do you know of Paris Mitchell Mayu?" And, I can't say the other guy's name because he sicks his wife on you with lawsuits. But I said, "Yeah, and I know they go, "Yeah, you have to come in." So they said some bullshit. The bass player said I called his grandmother and was threatening her. Like, they knew that whatever they said, it didn't matter because I was AWOL, and that warrant was going to come up, and that was their goal.
Yeah.
That guy was calling me up like, "I'm going to put you in federal prison for everything you did. You're going to be fucking going away for 20 years. So I basically told the cop, I go, "Look, I'm going to go down to Norfolk, turn myself in. When I get done with that, I'll come back up here and deal with this bullshit." He goes, "Oh, no, you're going to go." And I just said, click. Got a ride to DC and hired the scene did a benefit for me, and they hired Chris Garver, the tattoo artist, put up all the money for the lawyer, the first $2,500 retainer, and started my case. Got a jag down there, and then went and I had to wait for him to his calendar to clear up, and he was like, "Yeah, this is your surrender date." So I never forget it. He walks me into Nimitz Hall again. He goes, "Yes, I'm Commander such and such. This is John McGowan. He's been UA for 15 years. Every fucking pen. And they're looking at me, they're like, how fucking old are you? Because I mean, I'm 64 now. That was 30 years ago. I looked even younger. I was like, and then they're fascinated, like, how the fuck did you not? I said, I didn't break the fucking law. I became somebody else, different person, inside and out. And then the thing was, they put me in the brig, but I didn't want nobody to know that I was in the Cro-Mags because, like, I did shit, you know, whatever. So they march us through the freaking chow hall. You know, when you're in the brig in Norfolk, they got you in the jumpsuits and fucking, you know, and then everybody's like chattering away. And then I hear Cro-Mags. Fucking, I'm like, so, and then it turns out that the lawyer got it down. He's like, yeah, he was a conscientious objector. Here's his past. Here's what he went through. He became a monk. He changed his life. So they're like, all right, we're going to process him out. And they put me back in limits hall waiting for that. They gave me an ID card. And the guy was like, you know, and then I got out. But yeah, that was
Wow.
That was what happened with all of that. And like I said, my family's in the military. My nephew did tours in Iraq with the Marines. Like I lost my brother who was a disabled veteran 3 years ago. He got the VA messed him up in a surgery and gave him Mercer. It was the untreatable kind. It was just eating away his bones. So they just gave him oxys until whatever. And then they made him take the booster. Because they're like, in New York, you couldn't go into the VA unless you complied to all their bullshit. So after he took the booster, he had a major stroke, and then he just gave up wanting to live and just stopped eating and took pills and drank himself to death. And you know, my other brother was a veteran as well. My brother Eugene that I went into the military with. So they upgraded me. That's another bullshit story that these dudes tell, that I got a dishonorable discharge. I didn't. My whole shit was upgraded to a general discharge. And they even tried to give me all my medical benefits from the VA and everything. And I was like, nope. I said, look, I'm not. They kept sending me the forms. I was like, I'm not going to be a burden on the system. Like you know, I didn't serve, like, whatever the fuck shit happened. I don't want anything from the government. You know, I never did, you know, and, you know, so yeah, that's what went down with all that. And, like I said, I don't make excuses. Whatever happened. It was a long time ago. You know, you're talking 1980, bro. That's like fucking 46 years ago. But you still get people that are like, oh, yeah, he's a fucking deserter. You're dishonorable discharge, whatever the fuck. And I'm just like, you know what? I just let it slide, you know?
Yeah. You know, I was thinking back too. Like, I remember I went in like 92,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, how it took a while for everything to get online and the system to know everything you did. I was home on leave. I ended up getting a DUI.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, when you go back, you gotta tell them what happened. Well, I had never told them what happened, so I didn't, you know, face nothing.
Really didn't start kicking into like the mid to late 90s. So like,
Yeah.
they just didn't link all the shit up. Like, I mean, and back then it was like, you know, back in 1980, they was even like, I was fucking smuggling weed on the ship and doing all kinds of crazy shit, dude. And I didn't give up my suppliers because I ain't no snitch. I never been a rat. As a matter of fact, I went upstate because the cops, when they busted me, they're like, look, here's the deal. They were saying you're going to do 3 to 5, right? All you got to do is give us the supplier of who you getting the angel dust from. I was helping the dude make this shit. If you read my book, he used to whip up the chemicals on top of Houdini's grave. He was a fucking psychopath. And the other dude was mobbed up. That was the enforcer in Forest Park. This guy, Disco Mike. And somebody just posted this whole thing about Woodhaven, and I was like, and that he hung out over there, and I go, hey, you know, and he's a mob dude. I go, do you remember Disco Mike from Forest Park? He goes, yeah, Muscle Mike. So this is how crazy now that they got these things. Somebody read my book, and it was about 5-6 years ago. I get this message, and they read my book, and they go, yo, I read your book, Evolution of a Cro-Magnon. I want to show you something because I'm your age. And I go, what? And he screenshots a newspaper. That guy, Mike, he was raping. So he slipped us a Mickey. I got shot in the park. He takes me and this other kid to his house, and he puts fucking drugs in the drink. And I wake up with this hearing screams. And I go to the back, and he's raping the kid, the other kid that was with me. And I was probably next. So I just picked up the baseball bat because something, like I said, is something snapped. You know, I remember shit I went through, and I picked up the bat, and I just start fucking teeing off on this dude in his head, fucking cracking him in the back, robbed the house. And then I went to Forest Park with all the dust and just started smoking. And then they just, by the dome, and they just, you know, came up on me and grabbed me. But the newspaper article that he sent the screenshot said that this dude was raping all these kids from the park and nobody ever said anything. And he made the mistake of raping a made man's nephew or godson, one of the others. And they beat him to death in his apartment with that same baseball bat and shoved it up his ass. And that's how the cops found him. And I was like, holy shit. And it was in my old account that I had the fucking message, but it was in my old Instagram account, which they took down my account for speaking out against the vaccines and all that shit. So
yeah. I want to.
Karma always comes back to you, man. Karma never loses an address. And you raped kids. And this motherfucker was like 6'4", 230 on steroids. He looked like John Travolta on The Juice, you know, taking gear, you know, fucking all that shit. So he was an intimidating motherfucker, you know, and like, I mean, I was only like, what? That was 77. I was like 15 years old. I spent my 16th, you know, I got locked up at 15. So, you know, it always comes back to get you, man, you know?
Yeah. Now, real quick, going back to the Navy, you know, once you got the general discharge and stuff, we talked a lot about.
They gave me an OTH. And then
okay, other than honorable.
If you don't get into any trouble in the first year that you're out, we're going to upgrade you to a general discharge. And that's what they did. And then I didn't get in any trouble because I wasn't getting in trouble. I worked. I worked my ass off. So then they upgraded it to a general, and then they wanted to give me my benefits and all that, you know, just to be able to go to the VA and whatever. I mean, not like they were giving me like, you know, retirement pay or whatever, but yeah. And they sent me shit, fill out these forms. You can go to the VA anytime and I just fucking tossed it in the garbage, you know?
Now I want to ask too about, I mean, we talked about mental health and the things that you grew up around, and you know, a lot of our veterans as well, you know, coming home dealing with PTSD. What do you feel we can do to break the stigma of mental health and PTSD?
Well, you know, especially in the men, because the men have a much higher suicide rate than anybody, because it's this whole macho thing that I can't talk about. I mean, you know, listen, you know, my younger brother never wanted to talk about or deal with the shit that we went through in that foster home. And he dealt with it by drugs. And I did the same thing. But like I said, now I got 26 years clean, you know, and I just think like you know, I know that they just signed that thing. Joe Rogan, who's a friend of mine, was in the White House, and they did the thing. realistically, like I said, that won't even get approval if it does at all till 2035. So what are we supposed to do till then? Let these guys, first of all, they got put in harm's way for the military industrial complex. If you look at a lot of those dudes and look at what Robert O'Neill, who fragged bin Laden, and these tier one operators all said, like, it became clear that we weren't over there for the country. We was over there for Halliburton, KBR, the Carlyle Group. They will. If you watch Iraq for Sale, that documentary, if a fucking Humvee got a flat tire, they ordered another one. It was just they were fleecing. So they're sending people into harm's way for these groups that Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld and all of them had financial interest in. But regardless, those are our people. That's our fucking people. They fulfilled their obligations and the shit. I mean, my nephew came back from over there a different person, man. With the Marines, he's not the same. And they put him on all this fucking psychotropic fucking drugs and all this shit, antidepressant. It's like there's nobody home now when you talk to this fucking kid. And my friend Dimitri Morgalis was the one who started first doing the ibogaine treatments. They did a documentary on him on HBO. If you look him up, and they were going to put him in jail. He had to go to and he was helping vets and a lot of addicts too, because a lot of veterans come home and the shit they see, what are they going to do? They're going to take shelter. They got to dull that fucking pain that they're going through. I mean, that's not normal to see your best friend's head get blown off in front of you and people blown to pieces and all the shit that was happening over there. So he had to do the treatments. I think he was going to Mexico or something. And, I think it's compassion, but I think they got to be willing to open up and talk and express, listen, I had people write me and were like, in Iraq, my boy was SEAL Team 5 over there. I was sending him care packages and shit all the time. He was one of the guys in Act of Valor. I was sending books and yoga books and all kinds of shit to people that were deployed. They were like, yo, you don't know how much that shit meant to me, man, to get from you over there, and positive words. I would write letters by hand and put it in there. Like I said, I tried to be of service to those serving I just wanted to serve those that were in the military and doing whatever it was that they were having to do.
Yeah, Josta ended up sending me a care package when I was over there.
Yeah. So there's a stigma around men opening up, and that's why I like Evan. Evan from Biohazard. He does these men's groups and stuff like that, and it's I
got him scheduled this week to be on here too. Yeah.
Evan's a good dude. I go way back with those dudes, man. Biohazard. Danny was in the first Blood Clot record. Burn Babylon Burn. So, people just need to look out for each other, man. And unfortunately, especially with social media, there's so much fucking judgmental fucking pricks on there that, they're still talking shit about me. And I'm like, say it to my face, motherfucker. Come out from behind your computer, be a fucking man. Like we were in the old days, everything was up close and personal. If I had a problem with you, and even these days, I don't go. I got a couple people that's gonna catch hands. When my brother died, they were snapping and shit, and I don't go online telling people who their names are. I don't say shit, but eventually, I'm gonna run into them. And maybe you'll hear about it in all those softcore chat rooms, but, even over the whole scamdemic shit, I had people threatening me and all this shit. When I see you, motherfucker, I'm like, come see me now. Where you want to see me?
Yeah.
Don't threaten me, dude. That's my world. Like, you know, I'm trying to be a nice person in this world and not, you know, do
Yeah.
bad things to people. But you cross a certain line and all bets are off.
Well, yeah, that was one of the main reasons too why I wanted to get you on here, because it's like I follow your social media. I'm of the same mindset. And I usually reshare a lot of the stuff you post. It's like, you know, what happened to punk rock and rebelling against the machine and the system during that time?
They became the machine. And here's the thing. Let's get fucking real. I went to my first punk rock show at Max's Kansas City in the summer of punk 1977. And I got the shit beat out of me. Trial, fucking initiation by fire. I kept going to shows, Ramones, Dead Boys, fucking whatever. Then it was like I got locked up and I'm still listening to, and then I got to get into hardcore in 1980, the spring of 1980. I never changed. I'm the same person. When the Bad Brains hipped me, when I met the Bad Brains and HR was telling me about Babylon and Fearless Vampire Killers, the bourgeoisie said, better watch out for me all throughout this so-called nation. We don't want your filthy money. We don't need your innocent bloodshed. We just want to end your world. That was my fucking mantra. My entire life was to speak out against the corrupt globalists and the system that fucking chew you up and spit out fucking people and don't give a fuck about them. And I never changed. I wrote books about the corruption of the pharmaceutical industry that were published by HarperCollins, for fucking Christ's sake. That everything had to be fact-checked. Nothing in that book could be made up because they could get sued. They listed all the references of everything that I said. So when COVID, the scam hit, the guy who wrote the foreword to my last book, Dr. Joel Kahn, this was 2020. Listen, I saw who was involved. Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates. I've been talking about them for years. What Fauci did during the AIDS crisis in New York City.
Yep.
If you saw the movie Dallas Buyers Club, that was him that blocked the alternative treatments and forced AZT on everybody. And the AZT killed more people than the fucking AIDS virus. Right? And that was him. That was him.
Like Remdesivir with this last run. Remdesivir, whatever, yeah.
Is nicknamed Run Death is Near. And here's the thing. So that's what I'm going to get into right here, because Joel Kahn, Dr. Joel Kahn said, yo, look at this video. And it was his cardiology student, Dr. Peter McCullough, testifying in front of the Texas Senate. I have almost 90% success rate in killing the virus with a combination of therapeutics, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, high levels of zinc. He made this cocktail, and they stopped him. They stopped him from saving people's lives. So when these people are like, oh, so many people I know died from COVID, they let them die. And here's the thing, okay? When people got sick, they said there's nothing we could do. Go home and wait for the shots, right? When they came back even sicker, Fauci's protocol was remdesivir and a ventilator. Remdesivir was banned by the WHO because it killed over 50% of the people they administered that drug to during the Ebola outbreak. He is the one who brought it to scale with Pfizer. Pfizer bought the patents off another company, and Fauci brought it to scale with Pfizer. He was making money. All I kept saying was follow the money. Remdesivir and the ventilator was a death sentence. It caused your lungs and all your organs to fill up with water. You drowned in your own fucking fluid in your body. So they let you fucking die. They let you die, and they lied about how many cases there were because the hospitals were making money. This, I forget, it was an African-American woman. She came on and she said, yeah, you know, she worked for the government during the whole shit, and all the shit was coming out that they were just inflating numbers. She said, yeah, well, if you came to the hospital and you had a gunshot wound and you passed away, we labeled it as a COVID death. Car accident, COVID death. Everything was a COVID death. So when you start following the money of everything that they did, and now the shit just came out, I posted it today. I don't know if you saw that. Fucking this bear is suing the 4 vaccine makers because they took a technology that went into genetically modified crops and they put it in the vaccine. And that's what they were injecting, this fucking crap into babies and fucking pregnant women and all the rest of this shit.
Yeah.
And now I tell everybody, I know a couple dozen people that fucking had heart attacks, people died, all kinds of shit right after taking them shots. And you find me one single story in the mainstream media about a single death from the COVID vaccine. To this day, there has not been one story that they said, yeah, John Smith took the vaccine and died 24 hours later, because the same people that own the vaccine companies own the media. It's all these big conglomerates, BlackRock and all these companies that own all of this shit. So they're just, it's being buried. My page is still fucking shadow banned. I almost 1,000 followers, and before they took my other page down, I had 150. I was getting like 2,000 comments, 40,000 likes on my posts about the bullshit that was going on behind COVID. And to get back to the hardcore punk scene, I never fucking changed. I'm the same motherfucker that I was 40-something years ago now. And the scene changed around me. They started going after anybody that spoke up, canceling them. They made up stories about me. I'm a racist. I'm a fucking, all this bullshit. Just because I had the fucking balls to stand up to them. And there was nobody in any music scene that was as loud and vocal and had the facts to back up what I was saying than me.
I remember, ever since I got out of the Navy, I haven't taken any other vaccines. I've been against taking any of those. And when that came out, it was still new, and I refused to take that one because it was so new. But I ended up getting sick and in the hospital, and they said I had COVID. I was in there on oxygen for a little bit, and they even gave me that remdesivir or whatever. And by God's grace, man, I made it out of there because I didn't know how bad it was until after the fact.
You're the exception rather than the rule, dude, because a lot of people that went on that protocol of a ventilator and remdesivir did not survive.
Yeah, I didn't go on a ventilator, thank God. I kept moving. I kept trying to fight it before I had to go in. I was doing whatever I could, sitting up and trying to move and stay active and keep my lungs going.
It was like, if it affects people with COVID, with comorbidities, 3 or 4 obese people, all these people, why the fuck were you luring them with donuts and French fries and hamburgers to get the shot? Why did the governors in New York and other places force COVID patients into nursing homes, resulting in thousands of deaths? Right? We're supposed to. Never before did they ever quarantine the healthy. You quarantine the at risk. And they wanted to bring up the COVID death numbers, so they put COVID patients into the nursing homes. And they said, if you don't take these COVID patients, we're going to defund you from the state.
Yeah.
So this is what they did. And then they hid all the injuries. There was a Facebook page in 2021 about all the injuries that were happening from the vaccine, with pictures of like people with just open sores and heart attacks and hooked up on fucking life support and dead. And fucking Facebook took that shit down. And that guy, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. What's his name there? The guy that fucking owned Facebook and Instagram?
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
He was all for what they were doing the whole fucking time. Then he tries to play stupid on Joe Rogan's podcast. The government made me do it. Yeah, go fuck yourself, buddy. Because he gave a lot of money to Biden's whole campaign. And I don't listen, even with what's going on now with this dude in office, everybody's calling him out. Okay, you just had the CEO of Pfizer in the White House 3 months ago praising him for the work he did during COVID. What? Killing fucking millions of people? That's what you're praising? Trump was invested in the vaccines. He rolled out Operation Warp Speed. I called him out on it. I never supported him. But the hardcore scene said he's MAGA. How could I be MAGA? Dude, they don't even make fucking sense.
Dude, everybody's so MK Ultra now. It's just like, you can't critically think.
You're a brainwashed fucking pincushion that stuck yourself with that shit. You drank the fucking Kool-Aid. You were slurping on the fucking Kool-Aid fucking froze pop suppositories. Don't talk shit. Now they're all quiet.
Yeah.
And one of them that was like, oh man, when I see you, tattoos on the neck, the hands, I lift weights, I lift things up and put them down. That don't make you a fighter, okay? And I ran into him last year. I was coming out of the fucking gym over there on Lower East Side on 13th Street. And, he tried to walk by me, and I stepped in front of him, and I go, nah, dude. And he goes, what? I got up in his face. I go, you see this, motherfucker? This is how we do things on the streets of New York. You're running your mouth from behind your... I said, say something right now. Threaten me right now. And his girlfriend was like, fuck you, asshole. We're going to call the police. I said, you better tell her to shut the fuck up because she's going to get you beat up. And he's like, be quiet. And I just was like, you guys are all fucking cowards, man. And now, people are like, yo, you were right. It wasn't about being right. It was about standing up for my rights.
Yeah.
You cannot force an unproven thing that did not. And that's why they blocked the treatment with the shit that they now give to people that get COVID, ivermectin. Because if there's treatment, you cannot get emergency use authorization for a drug that did not go through the proper clinical trials. And those drugs did not. So they blocked the treatment so that they could sell you billions of fucking vaccines around the fucking world and in the United States especially. Listen, I only speak facts. They called me a conspiracy theorist, all this bullshit. And now I'm just like, but it was never about being right.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating. My brother died from this shit. I have friends going through stage 4 fucking cancer right now because they trusted these motherfuckers.
Yeah, turbo cancers now.
Celebrating being right? I'm not. But I'll tell you one thing. If they were right and we died from COVID, they would be fucking laughing and posting about it on social media. That's the difference between us and them.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the mentality. That's why, I say, yo, step up, motherfuckers. If you got a problem with me, step up. We'll take care of it. I don't care. Don't threaten me online, bro. Like, you're trying to make a show. Like, it ain't no show. Like, because it's going to come off the internet and it's going to have to happen in real time, in real space.
Yeah, not in the metaverse. In reality,
I never was like threatening people. Yo, fuck you. You're wrong. I'm right. When I see you, I'm gonna kick your ass. I never did anything like that. But I had people threatening me. And
a lot of people in fear, reacting in fear.
Yep, and that's why I just never, fear. Face everything and rise. They will forget everything and run. All your hardcore principles went out the window. All these bands that you put out all these records, and then there was one band in particular that I heard the singer was talking shit about me. Oh, he's a fucking conspiracy theorist, because he has a lifestyle that put him in intensive care when he got COVID. So out of fear, he fired people in his band that didn't want to take the vaccine. And I just called them out. They made a t-shirt about me, whatever the fuck. The joke's on them.
Yeah.
The joke's on you. And I said, he kicked out his bass. He's in this tough guy hardcore band and kicks his bass player out for not taking the shots. And I said, yeah, that's what. And everybody's like, you're a fucking liar. Well, guess what? I had the fucking text message exchanges between me and the bass player. He was calling his own band cowards and they're full of shit. And they kicked me out of the band for not taking the vaccine. And as soon as I posted it, everybody shut the fuck up. Because that's what they do. They sat there, and the amount of hate that was sent my way, they fucking told distributors if they carry my books or my records, they're gonna boycott them. They told promoters not to book my band. I had spoken word gigs and speaking engagements at festivals for vegan festivals. They called and said, we're going to cause violence if this guy comes. They contacted my coaching clients. I have a coaching business, and said that I was a Nazi and a racist. And how could you even work with this guy? That's the depths that they took this shit to. When you try to destroy my life and bankrupt me so I can't even pay my fucking bills, that's the type of violence. How do you expect me to react to that? You tried to destroy my life. I've been on the scene longer than any of these motherfuckers. When I was going to Max's, nobody in the hardcore scene was going to Max's in the 70s. I was going to Bad Brain shows in 1980. There was 10 fucking people there. Let's get the story fucking straight. And then all the work and shit that I did for the scene and help bands and this whole community aspect went out the window. And then you got all these new jacks talking shit, trying to destroy my life. How the fuck you think I'm going to react? How the fuck do you expect somebody to react when you tried to bankrupt me? But it never happened, and that pissed them off the worst. I didn't slip back to addiction. I increased my meditation, my chanting, everything. I did more service. I started everything that they tried to do to me failed because I was in the right. In the eyes of God, I was in the right, and that's what matters. And when I know I'm in the right, come at me, motherfuckers. Let's go, because you ain't never going to fuck with me.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, too. Going back to, you said you got, what, 26 years clean and sober now? Yeah, I just celebrated 17 years sober myself. When you first left the Navy and started Cro-Mags, when did your spiritual journey begin? Can you share a little bit about, getting sober and?
Because of what my brother was going through, destroying monsters. Joe Rogan gave me a quote for the back.
Nice.
And here's the thing. I don't have to agree with everybody politically, and I can still be their friends. I don't have to agree with everybody with the diet and what they eat, and I can still be their friend. That's the episode me and him talked about when I was on Rogan's podcast, episode 1152. All the fucking hatred and shit that's being talked between the vegans and all these carnivore diet motherfuckers. And, what happened to me was this, man. Bad Brains HR in particular was just started showing me another side to life when I met him in Norfolk and talking to me about PMA. And, I was like, what's that song, Attitude? And at the Bad Brains show, there was maybe 20 people at the club in Norfolk. But something just took hold. And then I ran into them again in New York. And they played this show at 171 where they recorded the record. And I was still taking drugs. drinking. That night I was on I took Quaaludes. I was fucking like, and I was still, I could throw with the hands. I boxed. I was physically fucking fit. And these Puerto Rican dudes came in from a gang and started fucking with everybody. And I stood up to them. The guy fucking, I beat up like one of the main dudes that were there. And Bad Brains ended up squashing the whole beef. I couldn't go down there for a while, but they gave me, I moved into Jerry Williams' studio. And I was hanging out with HR, and I was there when they recorded the whole first album, and it was a real spiritual experience. Like, HR was like, got me to stop drinking and doing drugs. They're Rastafarian, so I smoked weed, whatever, but I phased out eating meat and all the rest of this shit. They got me a job at the health food store called Prana Foods, and the manager there was Vinny Signorelli from the Dots. 6 Degrees of Separation. Jimmy Quid from the Dots produced that first Bad Brain single, Stay Close to Me and Pay to Come. So it was like, and they're like, yo, this dude is in this punk band. And he was there in 79 when the Bad Brains first played CBs. And he starts telling me about this other, like I was going to all these different yoga groups and hearing philosophers talk. Jerry Williams was giving me books from Gurdjieff, from Krishnamurti, Ram Dass. I just became like a sponge soaking up this knowledge because I was like, it just made me feel better. And then I went to the temple and I started chanting and like, I was like, wow, man, this was like 81. And then it was like 82. Bad Brains went on tour and I stayed back in New York, and I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna give this monk thing a try. And I went to Hawaii and just became a Krishna monk. And and then when I left the temple, well, I went from Hawaii a year and then I came back to New York. And I started the food program at Tompkins Square Park in 83 to feed the homeless. And I was down there I set up this concert called Rock Against Maya, and it was all the bands and hardcore and New York bands. And we had 5,000 people in Tompkins Square Park that day. We fed everybody spaghetti and like veggie meatballs and salad and bread. And soon after that, I ran into Harley at the park, and he was like, yo, I put the Cro-Mags back together, because the Cro-Mags started in 1981, which that's another fucking lie that gets told. I wasn't the original singer and all this bullshit. Here's the article from the Big Takeover magazine. Cro-Mags, 81, original singer, John Skinhead. That's me. So the band broke up because Dave Hahn left the band. He was the Bad Brains manager. That was the drummer, but he was in another band called The Mad. So he didn't want to deal with Harley's attitude no more, so he quit. And that band broke up, and then I started doing Blood Clot, which were the Bad Brains roadies. And then we went on tour with them and opened up for them and stuff like that. But then when I got back off that tour, the last show was 81, like Irving Plaza. And then they went on tour and all that, and I didn't end up going with them, so I joined the temple. So when I came back to New York, I ran into Harley at the park, and he goes, yo, I'm putting the Cro-Mags back together. Fuck this Krishna stuff. Like, come get back in the band. And I go, nah, man, this is my life now. God bless you, whatever. And he goes, yeah, whatever, fucking whatever, and walked away pissed off. So then I'm in the temple, and he gets Eric Casanova to sing. you know, and Eric wrote words and stuff like that. So then I started finding out about the corruption in the Krishna movement. Like crazy shit was going on. They were molesting the kids and murders and like all kinds of crazy shit and stealing money. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I split and I go to the squat. I just showed up and I was like, yo, all right, like, let's do the band. And he's like, yo, man, Eric's singing now. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I went to so they did 2 shows with Eric, if you want to call it singing. He basically sat on the drum riser. Harley was like kicking him, like, get the fuck up and sing. He got fired after the second show at CB's and I had to audition. Harley wanted me, but Paris wanted Roger from Agnostic Front. The rest, so we had to audition. The rest is history. And I injected what I learned from the temple into the philosophy. Like they had stupid songs. Kill the Ayatollah I changed that to It's the Limit. I started writing We Gotta Know and more conscious lyrics. I even named the debut album The Age of Quarrel. That comes from the Vedas. That's from Prabhupada's teachings, from Srimad Bhagavatam. The Iron Age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So I injected I was the first one in the hardcore scene to get into Krishna consciousness. I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's the facts, you know. Like they made fun of me when you know, not to my face, but you know, they talk shit. And basically, you know, the time I spent in the temple, I trained martial arts in New York with this guy. And then when I went to Hawaii, I was training martial arts and getting up at 2:30 every morning and eating good and a celibate monk. I was just like fucking running in the mountains and fucking swimming. And I just was like shredded and celibate completely, you know, no fucking spanking the monkey, nothing. Like I started learning about, you know, the Tao, love, sex, and longevity, holding in your semen and fucking doing breath work to fucking get that energy from that and how it travels up the spine, you know, like to the different chakras. I got into the whole shit 100%, deep dive. And then when I came out, I was living in the squat and started writing the lyrics for Age of Quarrel by candlelight in a burnt out building. And I set up the first show. The band was kind of like, after Eric got kicked out of the band, it was like me and Paris paid for the demo that we did in '84. I started booking shows. We were just all about it. And I was living in a burnt out building, being a bike messenger, fucking taking showers at the fire hydrant outside in the dead of winter and just getting on my bike and riding for 8 hours to fucking pay for the rehearsals and the recordings. And, you know, it was a team effort. But then when the band started blowing up, certain individuals' heads expanded. And I'm like, stay humble, motherfucker. Stay humble. You know, what goes up must come down. They did not heed the advice. And, you know, I got robbed on the '87 tour by the ex-bass player. Stole all I just was like, dude, I started finding out the manager was ripping us off and, you know, signing merch deals without merch, taking the money, never giving us the advance. I'm living in a burnt out building. This motherfucker has a condo and a boat up at fucking like the boat house on 79th Street. Like, and I'm like, I gotta go fucking panhandle and be a bike messenger to eat, you know? And that's when I just was like, I could deal with the manager, but when this kid that I grew up with, that I protected his ass on the streets, because many motherfuckers wanted to beat that dude's ass and didn't because he was in the band with me. Once he crossed that thing, I was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm out. And I quit right before the recording of Best Wishes. I wrote Crush the Demoniac. And he asked me if he can put it on. I said, yeah, just give me credit. Nope. Another guy wrote lyrics on the record, Doug Crosby, who was one of the referees for the UFC, one of the judges. He was also a stunt coordinator, big stunt. He worked security for the CroMags, very smart guy. He was the stunt coordinator for the TV show Oz. And, he asked him, hey, man, can you help me write these lyrics? I don't do this. So Doug said, yeah, I don't want to get paid. Just mention my name on the record. Nope, didn't mention his name. So anyway, that's where the Krishna consciousness came from. And, I've been a loud opponent of their bogus guru system and what they've done and all the shit they did to the kids, because that was the line to me that you don't cross. When you touch a fucking kid and I find out about it, if it was Vedic times, I would do the needful, because in Vedic times, thousands of years ago, if somebody did that shit to a kid, they got fucking put down. That's it. Goodbye. See you next lifetime.
Fucking rabid animal, right?
You can't do that. So instead of I don't want to go back to prison for some fucking scumbag. But, and then there's been hardcore bands that back the bogus guru system. Big ones that they act like they was the first ones to be into Krishna and all this. And their guru was the guru's best friend, Danadar's best friend, was raping the kids. And when the kids went to Danadar to say, we're being hurt and crying, Danadar beat the shit out of these kids and broke their arms and threw one out of a second-story window and fucking abused the kids to keep them quiet. Now the big guru in ISKCON, Radhanath, who's a bogus dude that everybody's following now, he tries to be like, oh, I'm so spiritual. He's a con man. He paid the money for the hit that was done against this devotee named Sulochan, was speaking out against the bogus gurus and what they were doing. Kirtanananda, the guy who was killing for Krishna and all that rest of that shit, wanted this guy whacked. Radhanath put the money in the hitman's hand. And now Radhanath is trying to reestablish Danadar as a guru again in the movement. Why? He fucking beat up kids. This guy's a fucking piece of shit. But they're all thick as thieves. They all stay in. I don't give a fuck who has a. One guy just did a class about 4 or 5 months ago down here in Alachua, where I live I'm in Alachua at the temple here, and says people wonder how the children in the Hare Krishna movement could have all sexual abuse and everything done to them. And he goes, what they don't understand is it's karma from their last life. I got up, I said, yo, dude, you cannot say that. These people are evil. And then this whole thing, my other friend was like, all these gurus are bogus. He was a guru that said this, by the way. And it just came out that he was having sex the whole fucking time. He was banging his fucking disciples or whatever. They're all fucking con men. So I don't care. I don't bite my tongue. I speak up against whoever the fuck I hear, because my life is given to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, if you want to know why I'm able to stay sober, I chant. There's Prabhupada's. I owe it to Prabhupada, who saved my life, to defend his honor. They poisoned him. They tried to get rid of him. They isolated him in India. They stole millions, billions of dollars from his movement. And you think I know all this shit that they did personally? They wanted me to go to the dark side because they knew that I had a history on the streets. One of their big gangsters came up to me in the temple when I left the temple, and then I came back for the Sunday feast they had. He goes, listen, I got this guy. He gives me large quantities of cocaine and marijuana. He's a big dealer. It's easier to give me that than cash. Do you know where I could get rid of it? I go, dude, this was the temple vice president, Vikreshwar Pandit. He's a fucking thug. He thought he was a tough guy, you know, taking steroids. I said, dude, you're asking me to fucking sell drugs? When he saw that I pushed back, he was like, oh, no, you know, forget about it. I told this woman, because we used to do a Krishna program, and I said, yo, this guy just asked me to sell drugs. She told everybody. I come back to the temple 2 weeks later. He pulls me aside. He goes, I should kick your fucking ass. I said, for what? He goes, you told everybody what I discussed with you. I said, yeah, because you're fucked up. He goes, and I said, let me tell you something, dude. I ain't like these other guys in this temple. You're a grown-ass man. I said, I'm 23 years old. You're a grown-ass man on steroids. Big black dude. I go, if you put your fucking hands on me, I'm going to fucking put a baseball bat across the back of your fucking skull and put you in the ICU. Don't fuck with me ever. And he just died of cancer. But he was slinging drugs and guns and raping women in the movement and sending them to have abortions. These are the people that are running this movement now.
Jeez.
So I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak up about it. That's it. And whoever don't like it, tough shit. I'm calling a fucking spade a spade.
Yeah. I know the positive effect that you've had and the trickle down effect that you've had in you know, with the movement for, you know, and your journey, you know, like when we mentioned Don Foose, our mutual friend that connected us. I know, you know, how much you impacted him and, you know, how much he has impacted my life here in the Cleveland music scene. You know, he just got me through I shot for a 72-hour water fast to kind of kick my energy drink and sugar addiction and stuff. And I ended up making it 95 hours. He got me through that. You know, I've been off of that stuff. I still can't bring myself to do the whole vegan thing, you know, but I'm trying to eat more Mediterranean, more vegetables and everything.
Every bit, it's 1% better every day, dude. I don't tell anybody. I say, work where you're at. That's it. Even when I met Don Foose, I talked to him a little bit, and he's always funny. He's like, yo, motherfucker, like the way I first spoke to him.
Yeah.
You can ask him. But I just gave him Prabhupada's books, and that's what it was. It's like, it's this tree. The first person in all of punk rock to be spiritual like that in the hardcore punk scene was HR. HR helped me. I helped the next person. Those people, Foose and all of them, helped other people, and they're helping people, and it just goes on and on and on. It's the spreading of consciousness. So, like, I don't take credit. You know who gets the credit? Prabhupada. He lived by example. And that's the thing that I saw. He had no money. He was humble. He would cook the feast and serve the feast and clean everything before he took a grain of rice. When he first started the movement, he slept on the floor. He had no possessions. He came to America with $7 and a case of books from India at 70-something years old because his guru said, go save people in the West. There's a great documentary called Your Ever Well Wisher. It's on YouTube. Go look at Prabhupada's life. Acharya means one who leads by example. That's the example I look to. I don't like, that's why I call out these other people. They were never supposed to take disciples. They just chopped up the world. They got bank accounts in their Western names and they're stealing money. They're just ruthless criminals. And there's so many criminals in religious movements because it's a tax exempt status. Like all these fucking like preachers that are like, you know, they preach the financial gospel. Give me your money and then you're going to get rich. God's going to give you everything. And like, they're all full of shit. That's why it says in the Kali Yuga, people will take irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion.
Now, going back to, getting sober, and taking on this lifestyle. What I've noticed in my sobriety, and I still deal with it, is, I was numbing out to avoid things that either I experienced when I was younger, or avoid feeling things. I was numbing out to battle this thing inside my head, that other voice, that negative energy. What's your journey been like, overcoming your past on this, using this path?
Well, it's the same thing. I was trying to like numb feelings and not and push it, to the back of my consciousness, but it's always sitting there in the subconscious mind. You never, it's always going to irk you. Like, you're always going to fucking be like, there's something like, I didn't know what the fuck it was when I was like younger like that. I just didn't talk about nothing for years. That's why when I put out my memoir and I came clean in this book, everybody was fucking like, they never knew none of that shit that went down in that foster home because I didn't talk about it. But, I got into Krishna and then I slipped into addiction again later on when that shit went down and I lost everything in the Cro-Mags that I'd worked for. And I was out of the band in 88. And I just fell into like freebasing crack addiction for 2 years. And like, I had drug gangs looking to kill me. The first time I ever freebase was in Miami. The dude stole coke from the Cuban cartel, and they came and shot up the house, the room that I was in, with AR-15s. That was my first time ever freebasing, and you figured I'd be like, oh my God, I gotta stop doing this. That didn't happen because I got shot at so many times as a kid, and just like the drugs overtook everything. That drug consumed my life. And it wasn't, I came back, I was all over the West Coast doing fucked up shit with this girl. And the story of how she was her parents were very famous in Hollywood. Her stepfather did the inaugural ceremony he was the producer of Reagan's inaugural fucking thing that he did whenever I don't know when he was the president, 84 was it? But yeah, they were powerful people. They hired private detectives. We were blowing through their money, fucking credit cards, selling shit, like just crazy shit, dude. And we got separated at the airport because she told them like what flight we were on coming back to New York. And we was on the run for like a solid year, blowing through her parents' money, bad checks, everything. And then when we got to JFK, I knew the feds was going to be there. So I made her walk off the plane first, and I like beeline down the escalator with this family, and I got away. But then I took we traded her car for like 2 ounces of coke, $2,000, and like 2 plane tickets. And I had all that coke. So I went to like a crack house and I was freebasing up the coke, and these dudes hit me with a fucking pipe or whatever the fuck it was and split my head open and robbed me. And that's when I hit rock bottom. I lost everything. And I went to the temple. I said, I have to stay here or I'm going to be dead. And they let me stay there. And I got a bike messenger job, and I started getting in shape and all that. And started writing about my experiences at that point too. I started taking screenwriting classes and just trying to tell the story. And and then like I got clean, but then I started dabbling again, like with the fucking, never did coke, but it was like I was dating this model in New York City, and fucking she was like a supermodel chick on fucking magazines, and it's like you fall into the club shit,
Yeah.
And it was like drinking champagne and weed brownies and ecstasy and fucking Molly and fucking mushrooms and then I just said, and then it was like 2000. It was 2000 when I kicked completely. I go, that's it. Stop doing everything. And the day before 9/11, I get this call, September 10th, 2001. You better come get your brother. My younger brother's living in my attic. He's going to be dead if you don't get him into a rehab. I went to Staten Island and I just did an intervention. I said, you're coming with me on the fucking ferry. I got a bed set up for you at the rehab in St. Thomas. Let's go. Don't fucking argue with me because I will fuck you up and knock you out and drag you. So he came with me. We go back on the Staten Island ferry. We're seeing all lower Manhattan. Little did I know that would be the last time that the Twin Towers were standing. The next morning, his flight was supposed to leave at night. The next morning, me and my girl were going to go on a bike ride. I turn on New York 1 in the city. A small plane has hit the South Tower. I'm like, fucking huge hole. I'm like, that ain't no fucking small plane. And that was all she wrote. He spent over 2 weeks, 3 weeks in my apartment. I couldn't get him a flight down to St. Thomas. And he detoxed on my couch and all this. We were reliving all the crazy shit that we went through. And it was just fucking, it was intense, man. And that's, you know, I started writing this book at that point. And yeah, so that's, you know, and then I was able to maintain through sports and stuff like that. I started getting into Ironman and fucking training a lot. And, you know, that was my drug. I replaced positive things in my life. You know, I replaced the bad shit with the positive stuff. So,
yeah. Well, and then, like, as I tried showing earlier, well, I got the green screen going on, you know, this book, there it is, the PMA Effect, man. That one, I mean, this one has helped me out a lot. I definitely got to go back through it for a reset. But, you know, it's just like I was saying earlier, that battle between my ears, you know, even though I've been sober a long time, that will still come up, that voice. And it's just like what you said. I try and start every day writing gratitude lists and resetting the mind. But what's part of your routine? Do you have like a daily routine?
Yeah, I get up 4 o'clock, 4:30 every morning, say my prayers, chant, meditate, read some philosophy, and I start doing some writing, training, you know. I'm got races coming up later in the year. Ironman number 15. I got a new book coming out called City of Fear. I signed a 3-book deal with Ryan Adams. But just always working, man. You keep busy. It's like, you know, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So we all have those voices. Like Prabhupada said, and it says in the Bhagavad Gita, for the conditioned soul, the mind can be his worst enemy. But for one who is liberated, the mind is the best of friend. That's why I had a whole thing in here on you know, on the worst enemy, the mind, you know.
Yeah, the enemy mind. Yeah.
The enemy mind, as I referred to it, because your enemy is never going to tell you to do anything that's beneficial for you. It's always going to tell you to do shit that's harmful. So that's why it's important. If you're going through any kind of addiction, substance abuse, don't try to go it alone. You ain't going to make it. One stick could be snapped easily. That's why, you know, I have the chapter Teamwork Works. Bunch together with other motherfuckers doing positive shit. Talk about your shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's all this great stuff in the community. And it's like one of the things is revealing your mind in confidence to somebody else. That's like, who can fucking do that? Everybody tries to hide. I did it. You know, remember the ads in the 80s, the big lie over the cocaine? You're fucking lying. You're bullshitting. like I grew up, I shot dope in 76. I've been around junkies my whole life. I had girlfriends, oh, you know, babe. And then you get some motherfucker trying to tell you, even when I was in the mags and there was dudes in the band doing dope. And I'm like, bro, I'm not fucking stupid. Like, you're high right now. Todd Youth, same thing. God rest his soul, but he had a drug problem and he tried to hide it all the time. So that's what's going to happen. Eventually, it's going to claim your life.
Yeah.
You have to be able to talk about your shit.
I get involved with a lot of men's recovery groups. I try and stick with those, man, where we can actually be authentic and transparent and talk about our shit.
Have Evan from Biohazard on. That's the whole shit that he does, the men's group that he has. I don't knock anybody, whatever their method is to help other people. If you save one life, what's the value of of a life? Like, you know, like I had this dude and he was actually in his fucking garage. He relapsed. He got out of prison with a gun to his head. And I swear to God, I'm not bullshitting you. I happened to be on my phone on Instagram and I get this message, hey man, I'm like in a really bad place. And I fucking reached out to him and I was like, look, man, you know, fucking dude, this and that, read these books, go online, you could. And he did. And he goes, dude, whatever it was that day that you happened to be on your phone, and he fucking chose not to take his life. And to me, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I tried to tell people not to take the vaccine too. Because it wasn't a vaccine. It was an mRNA untested therapeutic. And I was only coming from a good place with all that.
Yeah.
Telling, no,
trying
hold
to save another life. Yeah.
Why you can't, yo, dude, the best thing that came out of that whole shit was when I get messages, dude, you were the voice of reason. I didn't take that vaccine because of you. That, to me, because I wish my brother listened to me and didn't take that vaccine. But he did, and he's no longer here. You know?
Yeah.
And all these other people going through stage 4 cancer now and all the rest of this shit. I was only coming from a good place. I was coming from a good place with that. I was coming from, whenever I talk to people about not using, coming from a good place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. John, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you a couple questions I normally ask my guests that I have on here.
Go ahead, bro.
What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Well, I'm going to tell you what Prabhupada said about the current educational system. It's a slaughterhouse for spiritual life. They're teaching you everything materialistically to fucking brainwash you. Half the shit there should be a class on there should be a class on the difference, you know, how to stop birth, death, disease, old age. What's the difference between a philosophical class about life? They don't do that. They just want you to be a cog in the system and go out there and be like, get out there. Go fucking make us money so we can tax 35% of your fucking dough so we can live in mansions while you fucking work for us. There should be a spirituality, like whatever the fuck it is, whatever you want to call it, where Prabhupada said there's so many things they're teaching. Where are they teaching how to stop samsara, the cycle of repeated birth and death, how to overcome birth, death, disease, old age, the threefold miseries, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Adi Atmik. How do you get free from Maya? Where's those classes? Because that's going to benefit these kids the most. Now it's all about fucking, they're just staring like zombies at their phones all fucking day. And I was looking at this lady and I remember this black chick, she's, you know, a little younger than me, like in her mid-50s. I probably got 10 years on her. She used to book all the clubs, USA, Limelight, all the shit in New York City, right? Danceteria. They said to her, what ruined the clubs in New York? She goes, The fucking cell phones. Everybody stopped learning how to connect with each other and being part of an experience. Now it's like everybody's there fucking posting, selfie. Like, you miss out on the whole human interaction. That's why I get when artists are like, it's not just because they don't want you putting their shit on YouTube. It's they're taking your phone and making you put it in a bag when you enter the club so that you have that experience as a whole. You know what that was like in the early fucking 80s when 2,000 people would come together to see the Bad Brains and fucking, or Minor Threat or any of these fucking bands and experience that shit, or a reggae concert, or it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
We're losing the ability to communicate with each other as humans. And a big part of that is we're neglecting the internal side of our life, and you're never going to be happy. I don't give a fuck what they tell you, how much money you look at. All these rich fucking people, how miserable they are. Why does Bill Gates and all these motherfuckers want to control the world and poison people? And like, dude, you got more money than you can spend in 10 lifetimes, and you're fucking a miserable cocksucker. All of them. They could be doing so much good for humanity, but they lost the narrative. The narrative is about us connecting with each other. My narrative is also about connecting to my higher power.
Yeah.
Where's that being taught? There's no class on that. They're trying to produce robots to go out into society and just text message and post on Instagram and, you know, learn about the 27 fucking genders and all this bullshit that they're fucking brainwashing kids with now. It's like, dude, it's insane. It's Kali Yuga to the fuck. It's the age of quarrel to the max. So that's my answer for that one.
And then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Number 1, Prabhupada. Hands down. Because all from that came the other association with the other devotees that guided me the right way. And then I would have to say HR, because like he was like, put that first mic in my hand and said, get out there. And J.W. because he gave me, the guy that produced the Bad Brains record, he gave me all the knowledge about food and diet and consciousness and all of these lessons that I still apply to my life today. He was the one, he was like, planted that transcendental seed, man. This is all bullshit. Don't get caught up in all this fame and all this bullshit. He was a fucking sadhu like you couldn't fucking imagine. He would give you his last fucking piece of fruit. He was one of the most humble, talented people. And there would be no Bad Brains record. That first record is because of him. I was there. They did it at his studio. He went on the road with them, and he was the closest one to ever capture the Bad Brains energy live. If you listen to the raw cassette, you hear it. But he, you know, was the one that let me stay at the studio and taught me so much spiritually. He gave me those books that led me to the health food store, to Prabhupada. You know, those 3 people, I have to say, you know.
Yeah. Nice. And then any message you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
God bless you. And listen, we don't have to agree politically or whatever, man. I respect you. Anybody that wears the fucking uniform and, you know, like I said, I got friends that served in military and family members and everything. My uncle was a scout sniper in Vietnam in the Marines. So like, we have a long history of that, but you know, It's I feel that the government does not have the military personnel's best interests in mind. It's they serve their masters. And when they make the bombs, they got to drop the bombs. They're going to start another war. Vietnam was a lie. It was a false flag. They
Yeah.
never fired on our ship in the Gulf of Tonkin. They admitted that. Iraq, a lie. Now they're starting to do this next shit with Iran, a fucking lie. Netanyahu's been saying they're 2 weeks away from building the bomb for the last 30 years. But at the same time, I understand, like, you're in this, like, I'm sure there's the gun ho motherfuckers. Yo, they've been working up to get to this point. They're like, yeah, we're like racehorses. Let us go. And then there's people that ain't really down with the deception and the lies that's going on, but they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They put their name on that fucking contract. So,
Yep.
just stay positive, and that's what I say. And talk about shit you're going through. Don't, my whole thing was like I would get drunk to oblivion and take drugs and fucking, like, I was just crazy in the military. Like, when I got turned, it's a funny story. I got turned in, and then when they gave me my ID after the brig and everything, I was going out and hanging out with the punks in Norfolk again that I hadn't seen in 15 years. And this guy's like, yo, I remember one night you were so fucked up. You took so-and-so and hanged them off the fucking the 8th story balcony by his feet. And I was like, I never did that. And they were like, yeah, you did. So, talk amongst yourselves, man, and stay positive and have each other's back. It's just like, what they say. I'm not over there, this whole I'm fighting for country. Like, no, they're fighting for the dude on their left and the dude on their right, because they've trained with these people. They fucking have Christmas dinners with their families, their family. The camaraderie that you could have in the military is fucking amazing, Yeah. And I think that's a big part. Watching all the interviews of the dudes that get out and they lose that. That's why they start really going off the fucking deep end when they get out, because it's like when you've been to war, and I'm sure it's an adrenaline rush for a lot of those special operators and shit. I know a lot of them, and some of them made the transition back to the sneaky civilian life with no problem. But some of them, it was a lot harder. They lost that fucking camaraderie, that they had with these people, and like doing this most, even if you're not a tier 1 operator, you could still be in the military doing shit and working together and training together. It's like a camaraderie that's there that you're not going to get anywhere in the world. I mean, sports teams, they go through that. Sport, athletes, and so look for community, man, even while you're in the military, because it's important, because one day that's not going to be your thing anymore. So I would say start fucking looking, lay that groundwork now before you get out. Plant those seeds now. That's going to help you to transition back to civilian life now, because otherwise you're going to be in a bar telling fucking war stories, ruining your family and your kids and fucking everything, man. I respect the fuck out of people, that are in the military, man. So, God bless them all. I said prayers when my nephew was deployed over there, and my friends were deployed. As a matter of fact, my boy, that's the Frogman, he was just, I sent him a whole care package with a blood clot shirt, and he was in Iraq, Frogman, and fucking had the blood clot shirt on, and like, so like these guys, man, and these girls,
Yeah.
they're and Prabhupada said that if your life is a mess and you don't have nothing else to do, go into the military, because they'll teach you discipline and honor and respect. Like my neighbor here, his kids, my neighbor was retired Army next door, and his kids are the most respectful kids. One of them just went into the Army. Like, you know, you know, if you work the program, it could do a lot of good things for you, you know, get you out of a bad place, teach you discipline, honor, respect, you know, and those are important qualities to have. But I think that's the main thing, is to start to do the groundwork now. If you're a short timer and you got, you know, whatever, however much you got left on your contract, start making plans now. And like, because like otherwise it's just going to hit you like fucking head on train, you know. You got to prepare yourself for that and make those inroads in the civilian world where you have community, whatever it is. If I know people get out, they coach people, they get involved in jiu-jitsu or athletes, you know, like look at Timothy O'Donnell, he's a world champion, and he Ironman, and he was fucking EOD in the Navy. You know, like get involved. And I did races where amputees that served the country, you know, raced, and they found their community. You know, there was one frogman, and he got in Panama. Was one of the guys that got pinned. He was Brazilian, just SEAL guy, and I met him at the New York City Triathlon, and he was paralyzed in a wheelchair. He got pinned down on the airstrip when they tried to get Noriega. Who was that in Panama that was running? Was it
Noriega, I think. Yeah.
So they pinned him down on the air, and he fucking took shots to the legs. He was paralyzed. But he started getting into Ironman and triathlon. And I met the guy, and I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, you know, so it's that community that we look for, because really that's the spiritual aspect. It's part of who we are. We're supposed to be with other people. You know, the spiritual community, that's what I loved about when I joined the temple. It was like we never experienced racism or anything, because everybody was together from all parts of the world. We had people from Suriname and, you know, brothers off the street, and white boys and Puerto Ricans and whoever. But we came together for the common good, and that's so whatever it is, when you're making that transition, or even in the military, and you come back off of a deployment or whatever the fuck is going on now, find that community that you have, that thing that's going to keep you grounded, so that you don't take shelter of the booze and the drugs and whatever else, you know, antidepressants.
Yeah. John, man, thank you so much for your time, dude. It was really good talking with you.
Brother.
For everybody out there that may not be following you on social media or just wanting to see what's going on with you, where would you send them?
Well, you know, John Joseph Discipline is my Instagram. JohnJosephDiscipline.com is my website. Coach, you know, coaching mindset and all that discipline stuff, and you know, and yeah, just I'm on Facebook and shit. John Joseph, whatever. Just, you know, I try to, like, if somebody writes me, whatever, I always fucking answer them back, you know.
Awesome.
I got a bunch of books out, and, you know.
Yeah. Now, and then one last favor before I let you go. You mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introduce yourself. You're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, everybody? John Joseph here, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. John, man, it was great talking with you. I appreciate the time, man.
So much, and sorry, I missed the initial meeting, but
all good. It all worked out. Thank you so much for being generous with your time, brother.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, and say hello to Mr. Foose, and say hello when you interview Evan. Tell him he's got a big fan. Just say, yo, you got a big fan. He was just on the show. And tell him, yeah, John Joseph. I love Biohazard. Bobby, Billy, fucking just great dudes, man.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
All right! Listen up! Hold on to your seats! Grab your girls, grab your beers!
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from After X, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, SO1 Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain